Hi there, welcome to the World Silver Gods YouTube channel, and in this video we're going to discuss France and Switzerland silver coinage. And I grouped these two countries together because they're almost identical in size and fineness. Almost. There's a couple of minor discrepancies, but it's just really convenient to just group them together because they're very, very similar. Okay, France actually has a long history of silver coinage as well, like Great Britain. But most of what you'll encounter is going to be from around the turn of the century until World War I. There are earlier coins, but again, they're likely to be really numismatic or just like super worn. So you're kind of limited to that little spectrum with a couple of other outliers for France. And we'll go over those right now. Okay, so from 1898 until 1920, 50 centimes, one franc, and 2 franc coins were all 0.835 silver, 83.5% fine silver. Okay, this is about the size of a dime, a quarter, and a half dollar, roughly. Okay, and unfortunately, you're kind of confined to that narrow date range because after World War I and 2 years after World War I, they stopped making silver coinage for a pretty long stretch. If you're interested in these, this is kind of what you're confined to. But again, for France, there are a couple more exceptions. Right before World War II, from 1929 to 1939, they issued 10 and 20 franc coins, and these are 0.68 silver, 68% silver. So it's a lower fineness, and I personally haven't really come across too many of these. I have no doubt that they're probably near melt, but there just don't seem to be a whole heck of a lot out there because these are right before World War II and all the chaos that threw out there. So these are 10 and 20 franc coins. This is actually a 20 franc, but the 10 is half the size. So there's that. It's 0.68 silver. And in the 1960s and 70s, France actually had silver in their circulating coinage again. But there's a couple of little caveats that you want to look out for. Okay, only the 5 franc coin in the 60s, throughout the 60s, 1960 to 1969, was 0.835 silver. Okay, now it's tricky to remember, but you just as long as you remember 1960s and only the 5 franc coin, because they had 1 and 2 franc coins that look very similar, but they're not silver. Only the 5 franc coin from this era was silver, and that you're likely to encounter in amounts. Okay, and in the 70s, they also, in the late 60s, also they released 10 franc coins with a similar deal, but I haven't found too many of these. They made a lot of them, but for some reason I haven't come across too many of them. And these are 10, and they look vastly different. So basically, the only reason I was so adamant about making sure is because these look like the previous coins. These you can kind of tell that they're different. So you shouldn't get tripped up with that. But these, only the 60s and only 5 franc coins if you're looking at that format for the 5 franc. There's 10 franc coins for this series, and there's 50 franc coins, and these are both 90% silver. So it's a very high purity, and they're both big coins. And I found them at spot, but I haven't found too many of them. But it's a very high fineness, and these are definitely pretty cool that they're so big, and they follow that bigger is better apparent mantra. So I've got those. That's France in a nutshell. Again, France has a lot of commemorative coins, but these are probably the biggest things that you're likely to encounter in the junk foreign silver coin bin. Okay, and without stopping, we're going to jump into Switzerland, because Switzerland is almost the same as France in that their Finenesses are the same. This is a 1 franc Swiss coin. It's 0.835, 83.5%. And these are half franc coins. They're both 835% silver. And there are also 5 franc coins. I don't have one, unfortunately, but those are also 0.835 silver. And I like Swiss coinage a lot. It's actually one of my favorite world silver series to invest in, because the Swiss franc is I like the Swiss franc. I think it's a strong currency, and it's easier because it's a lot more consistent. From 1875 to 1967, you had continuous mintage, and it's all the same fineness. And the only exception to that is the 5 franc coin, which again I don't have, but that was until 1969 was 0.835. But on 1 franc and half franc and 2 franc coins, you've got 0.835 silver. So that's what you look for Switzerland. And I like Switzerland coins a lot. So I'm always on the lookout for these. But again, shipping's a bear. It's kind of interesting is that these are actually the same format that are used in Switzerland, the same coins. What I mean to say is how, these coinages aren't used. This design isn't still used in France or most any place except for maybe the U.S. and Canada. But this is actually the same design on their coins today as you look today. So it's still still uniform with what they're using in coinage today. So I just like that it's just it's still usable money, but it's also silver, and that's why another reason why I like the Swiss coinage. One of the it's one of my favorite investments. But so that's France and Switzerland in a nutshell. It's not a whole heck of a lot to say that doesn't apply to the rest of the silver coinages. Just watch out for shipping. Make sure your dates are okay, and it's 0.835 fine, except for the few French coins. And that's about it for Switzerland and France.